Wealth is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers behind tall gates, dripping through polished floors and guarded smiles. Chief Obadele's mansion was like that, a fortress of glass and marble, so flawless that even the air inside seemed rehearsed. To the world, he was the perfect success story, a man who rose from nothing to become untouchable. To those who worked for him, he was both master and mystery. Lillian never imagined her shadow would cross that gate. She came from Ajegunle, where the night smelled of smoke and the mornings carried hunger like a second language. She had nothing but calloused hands, a tired body, and a face strangers often said did not belong to her world. Too soft, too radiant, too rare. Some said Lillian's beauty was something of a blessing. For Lillian, it felt more like the bait. The job came like a door opening where there had only been walls, a position of a housemaid in Chief Obadele's house. The first day she entered, her breath caught, chandeliers like frozen stars, walls that gleamed like mirrors, floor laid out in excess she had never even seen sold in markets. It felt less like a house and more like a spell. At first, she kept her head down, scrubbed floor, carried trays, slept in the servants' quarters with gratitude heavy in her chest. But wealth always has eyes, and soon those eyes turned toward her. It started with the weight of a gaze, then questions about her past, then small glittering offerings left in her parts, perfumes, silk, jewelry that did not belong on her wrist. She tried to resist, but Chief Obadele's words pressed into her hand she could not shake off. You are wasted in poverty, Lillian. You belong where the world can bow to you. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that after all her scars, this was the blessing she had been waiting for. But the deeper she stepped into his world, the more it began to feel like a trap disguised as a throne. And soon, she would learn that some fortunes are not built with money, but with blood. For weeks, Lillian moved like a shadow in the mansion, obeying, cleaning, and keeping her heart silent. But the hearts are traitors. They notice warmth where there is none, and they cling to it as if it's air. Chief Obadele did not treat her like the others. He spoke her name slowly, like it was something valuable. When she served him at the long dining table, he would ask her to sit. When she walked past, he would pause his calls, his piercing eyes tracking her as she were the only one in the room worth seeing. At first, Lillian told herself it was nothing. Men looked at her often. Poverty had taught her that beauty was a dangerous currency. But Chief Obadele was not like the other men on the street who whistled her name and laughed. He was careful, deliberate, patient. He waited until she trusted him. One evening, he called her to his study. The room smelled of old leather and expensive whiskey. Bookshelves stretched like walls of secrets, and a single lamp painted his face in gold and shadow. Sit, he said. Her hands trembled as she obeyed. He leaned forward, studying her way jeweler studies a diamond. You have been in this house for months, Lillian, he said, his voice low, calm. You work hard. You ask for nothing. But a flower like you should not live in dust. She tried to speak, but her throat tightened. I know what they say about me, he continued, that I'm ruthless, that my money comes from things better left unspoken. But do not listen to the world, listen to me. I want you by my side, not as a servant, but as my woman. Her breath caught. Her heart told her it was impossible. Men like him did not love women like her, but his eyes did not waver, and the gravity of his presence pulled her closer. That night, in the quiet of her small room in the servants' quarters, Lillian cried, not from sadness, but from something stronger. Hope. Could this be real? Could this be her escape? From then on, her life changed. She no longer ate at the servants' hall. He invited her to his table. Dresses appeared in her closet, soft silk, lace that whispered against her skin. She began to wear perfume that clung to her like a promise. When she entered the room, the staff lowered their eyes. They knew. Lillian was no longer just a housemaid. She was Chief Obadele's woman. Yet, even as her world glittered, shadow followed. Sometimes she would wake in the night to strange sound, low whispers echoing in the hallways like voices carried by the walls. Sometimes she noticed the study's door locked for hours, though no light came from under it. And once, as she carried his jacket to the laundry, her fingers brushed against inside his pockets, wet, sticky, as though soaked in something thicker than wine. She told herself not to ask questions. Love, after all, demands trust. But trust has teeth. The first crack came on a night with heavy rain. Thunder shook the mansion as the servants whispered prayers under their breath. Lillian lay restless in her bed, unable to silence the storm inside her. It wasn't just the weather, it was the sound. A low chanting, steady, rhythmic drifting through the corridor like a heartbeat. She rose, barefoot, the hem of her nightdress brushing the cold marble as she followed the sound. Every step carried her closer to the forbidden wing of the mansion, the part of the house no servant ever entered. At its end was a door she had never seen open, Chief Obadele studying. Tonight it was ajar. Through the crack, she saw candles burning in a circle on the floor. Strange symbols were painted on the tile in something dark and glistening, and in the center stood Chief Obadele, his shirt discarded, his chest marked with scars shaped like letters that did not belong to this world. His hands trembled as it held a bowl of blood, too thick to be animal, too warm to be wine. But before him, in the shadows, something shifted. It was not human. Its eyes glowed faintly, like coals buried in ash, and his voice slid through the room like smoke. You have done well, Obadele. The blood binds you still. 10 years of wealth, 10 more thrones, 10 more lives bending beneath your feet. But do not forget, the debt grows worthless. The time approaches. Lillian clapped her hand over her mouth to keep her from crying out. Her legs shook beneath her. She stumbled back, her breath loud in her ears, her heart pounding so hard she thought the spirit itself could hear it. She did not sleep that night. The next morning, Chief Obadele was the same as ever, smiling, pouring her tea, pressing a cold bracelet into her hand. For you, my queen, he said softly. But when she looked into his eyes, she no longer saw warmth. She saw a hollow hunger. From then on, she watched him differently. She noticed how he never bled from small cuts, how his reflection sometimes wavered in mirrors like a ripple in water, how the servants seemed to age faster than they should, their eyes hollow, their hands thin. The truth pressed into her bones. This house was not built by labor or sweat. It was built by something darker, something that feasted on blood and hound her lover in power of chains. Still, she kept silent. But silence cannot last forever. One evening, she overheard him in the garden, speaking into the shadows. His voice was softer this time, pleading. She cannot be taken, he whispered. Not her. I have given you everything else, not Lillian. The shadow hissed in reply, though no one was there. You know the covenant, Obadele. 10 years, 10 offerings. The last is always the dearest. The girl will not only feed us, she will bind you to us forever. Lillian froze where she stood, her heart dropping like a stone into the cold water. She was the sacrifice. If this story has your heart racing, don't forget to subscribe to Tales by Cynthia. Every week I bring you dark stories like this, where love, greed, and power always meet their price. Now let's return to Lillian's fight for survival. Lillian's body shook as though the night air itself had pierced her. She slipped back into her room and locked the door. Her breath sharp, shallow, ragged. The truth crashed over her in waves. Chief Obadele had never saved her. He had only been preparing her. For days, she moved carefully, masking her fear with smiles, bowing her head when he passed, pretending his gift still dazzled her. But inside, she was building a fire. Every glance at his eyes, every whisper of his shadow from the locked wing only fed the flames. She could not run. She had no money, no family, and the city was wide but never kind. If she fled, he would find her. Men like him always did. The only path left was forward, into the belly of the darkness. Lillian began to listen. She memorized his chants, searched hidden corners, and in the farthest end of the library, she found a book, The Covenant of Fire and Blood. It was confirmed, her worst fear. She was the final sacrifice. That night, she prayed with desperation she had never known, and in that prayer, she found something she had not expected. Courage. A fire that burned hotter than her. The night of the sacrifice came. The study glowed with black candles, the air heavy with ash. Obadele's scars fled, the spirit eased, and the knife was raised. But Lillian had learned. She spoke his language, the forbidden words, twisted into freedom instead of chains. In the name of the covenant, I break the chain. In the name of offering, I turn the debt. The spirit roared, the mansion shook. Obadele dropped to his knees, pleading, clawing for control. but Lillian seized the knife and drove it into the circle. The house screamed, shadows burned, the covenant shattered, and Chief Obadele, the man who once owed wealth, power and fear, was dragged into the pit he had dug for himself. Lillian stood, trembling but alive. When dawn came, the mansion was in ruin. Servants fled, neighbors whispered, and the name Obadele fell into ash. But Lillian, barefoot, scarred and free, walked away with something greater than all his riches, her life. Moral of this story: greed may build empire, but it is courage that survives them. No love, no gift, no fortune is worth the price of your soul. And so this tale has come to an end. Some houses look like heaven from the outside, but inside they are coffins lined with silk. If you ever find yourself offered love wrapped in gold, look closer. You may just see the blood beneath the shine. If you were pulled into this story, don't forget to subscribe to Tales by Cynthia, where every story leaves a scar and every scar carries a lesson. Until next time, keep your lights burning. The night is always listening. Bye.